A cruise ship stuck in port because its computers basically forgot who the guests were. And then there's an update on the Anna Kepner case. Oh, and another cruise line is stirring quiet but intense debate over something casino regulars are keeping a close eye on. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. And this week feels like one of those weeks where cruising reminds us that it isn't just glossy brochures and Instagram sunsets. It's people, systems, policies, and sometimes hassles when things go sideways. Let's start in Long Beach because this story shook a lot of cruisers who were supposed to be sailing carefree into vacation mode. Carnival Firenze, I think I said that right, that's the Italian version, was scheduled to set sail, and instead it sat idle in port because of a colossal IT systems failure. And this was not some minor little glitch, that's pretty common on cruise ships, but it was huge. Reports indicate that critical booking and guest data was completely inaccessible. I'm talking cabin assignments, onboard accounts, the whole digital backbone that allows a cruise ship to function. It just was not working at all. So guests boarded expecting their usual fun and embarkation chaos, but what they got was prolonged uncertainty. People didn't know where they were supposed to be staying, crew members didn't have reliable access to guest records, and Carnival ultimately delayed departure by an entire day. Yes, an entire day, in order to stabilize systems. Now, to Carnival's credit, the ship did set sail, guests were accommodated, but the damage wasn't just the logistical piece, it's also psychological. Because when the technology that underpins your vacation fails and fails so badly, trust erodes fast. Now, this story matters because cruise lines have become deeply dependent on centralized tech. Pretty much nowadays on a cruise, you can't do anything unless you do it through the app. And that includes other things too, from muster drills to drink packages to casino tracking. All these things run through those systems. So when they fail, there's sometimes no manual workaround at scale. And speaking of things that make people uneasy before they board, let's talk again about the stuff that's happening in the Southern Caribbean. Now, I talked about this last week. I am keeping a keen eye on this because as of the time you watch this video, I will be flying out to a cruise that calls to the Southern Caribbean. And what I'm talking about is the fact that over the past week or so, cruisers have been watching developments around Venezuela with increasing concern. Now, what's causing some concern is that Norwegian Cruise Line has already adjusted some itineraries, specifically calling at Curacao. And while there have been no mass cancellations that have occurred, and so far other cruise lines have not followed suit, the anxiety is real. Now, the reason for this is ports in the Southern Caribbean sit closer to geopolitical tension zones than many travelers realize. Curacao in particular is like 45 miles from the coast of Venezuela. So when tensions rise in that region, cruise lines have to evaluate their risk really quickly. So the issue here isn't fear, it's uncertainty. And cruise lines often don't want to make or confirm changes until the absolute last possible moment. That means passengers may not know their final itinerary until days before they're sailing or even mid-cruise. So my cruise is on Holland America Line's Rotterdam. We are calling it to Curacao in a few days, and whether or not we actually make it there remains to be seen. So stay tuned and see if I make it to Curacao. But for now, all we can do is keep a watchful eye on things. Now let's talk about another issue on Carnival that a lot of cruisers have been closely following. And I'm talking about the Anna Kepner case. Now, this is a tragic case. This is a teenager who was killed on Carnival Horizon, and it has had the cruise world talking. Now, there have been some new developments. A court filing this week revealed that the teenage suspect, being Anna's stepbrother, claims he doesn't remember anything about the incident. And again, this case involves the death of his stepsister. It's drawn national attention. It's become a huge deal. But there's no sensationalism here, just a stark reminder that cruise ships are closed environments. And it's not always a safe zone, even when you're cruising with family, as is the case here. Now, this case has reignited conversations around supervision of minors on board, especially during overnight hours and in cabin settings. Cruise lines provide youth programs, but those of us that have parents of teenagers, you know, they don't want to usually go to these youth programs. They want the freedom and the flexibility to roam on the ships. So for parents cruising with teens, and that includes me, this story does hit different. It forces reflection. It forces us to ask questions about how much independence is appropriate on board. Are cruise ships as safe in these little bubble zones like we think they are? Have we gotten too complacent? So with this new development, again, he's just basically claiming amnesia. But for parents of teens that cruise, I want to know if this case has changed your approach to parenting while cruising. And another day, another Carnival brawl. Okay, not a brawl. An assault. I love Carnival, but Carnival gone to Carnival. All right. On a recent Carnival sailing, Carnival Conquest, a woman was charged after allegedly assaulting a teenager because she falsely believed he was bothering her children. According to reports, the situation escalated from confrontation to physical contact, and the cruise ended not with souvenirs, but with criminal charges. So basically in this case, this woman named Petra Gransberry allegedly heard from her teen children that they were being bothered, they were being hassled. So she's on the ship, she's actually with a head of security. She sees some teenagers running by, because you know on cruise ships, especially on Carnival, teens get together in packs, going back to the whole should we supervise teens on ship conversation. And she thinks in her mind, hey, that's the kid that's been bothering my kid. So she exits her conversation from the security guy, sprints down the hallway, and basically tackles this kid to the ground, meanwhile summoning her kids to come and join her in the assault. And as a result, when the ship debarked in Port Miami, she caught a child abuse charge and now is facing a major case. And the kicker here is the kid that she tackled swears it's mistaken identity. He didn't do anything. He actually picked her out from a photo lineup. And he said, I was just running because there was a pack of kids running and I was joining the kids and we thought it was a safety issue and I don't even know this woman. I don't know her son. So it's a pretty chaotic scenario, but regardless of what happened or if it was mistaken identity or what, keep your hands to yourself and especially don't be going after other people's kids. So I want to know what you think. If you're taking a cruise with your kids and some grown woman physically assaults your kids, what would you do? I know for me, I probably would catch a case. Now let's pivot to something a little less violent, but still telling about where cruising is headed. Now, over the past week, there's been growing discussion online among princess cruisers about poker tables appearing to be removed or reduced on some ships. Now, nothing is official. Princess has not made, at least to my knowledge, any sweeping public announcement, but frequent cruisers and casino regulars, we notice things and they're talking, they're chattering, they're comparing notes, and they're reacting. Now, poker players tend to be a small but loyal group. Now, I'm a slots player. I actually have a guide to casino cruising, how you can get free cruises by playing in the casino. I'll drop that link below if you want to check that out. But when it comes to poker players, they spend hours at a table. They build routines around sea days. They often choose cruise lines specifically because that poker experience exists. Now, what's fueling the conversation is the possibility that Princess may be rethinking how casino space is allocated, i.e. more slots, more lounge space. Now, again, none of this has been formally confirmed, but the reaction itself is the story. It's a reminder that onboard offerings evolve quietly. We see this all the time. Cruise lines will quietly slip in changes. They don't even ever announce it officially. Eagle-eyed cruisers notice it, and that gets the rumor mill started. Now, sometimes rumors end up not coming to fruition, but a lot of times these things do actually lead to real changes. And loyalty often hinges on details that matter deeply to niche cruisers, like poker players. Now, if poker is a part of how you enjoy a cruise, I want to know, does even a hint of this kind of thing make you rethink which line you sail? And if Princess does scale back on the poker tables, does that make you less loyal to Princess and to make you seek out other cruise lines? Let me know. And let's talk money. Not onboard spending, not overindulging the drink package, I'm talking destination costs. A federal judge has upheld Hawaii's new climate tax that will apply to cruise passengers beginning in 2026. The tax is designed to fund environmental protection efforts and will add to the overall cost of visiting the islands by sea. Now, this doesn't cancel sailings, it doesn't restrict access, but it does change the math. Hawaii cruises are already premium itineraries due to the distance, fuel costs, and port logistics, and as a result, they end up being pretty expensive. And this tax nudges them further up that price ladder. So for travelers planning ahead, this reinforces the value of booking early and understanding what is baked into your cruise fare versus what is added later. And it also raises broader questions about how environmental policies will increasingly shape cruise pricing worldwide. And we've seen these changes, often under the guise of environmental protection, but sometimes I think it's not always environmental protection, like we've seen with the cruise tax in Mexico, which they have been allegedly using to fund their military. But I want to know what you think about these taxes on cruising. Does this change that value proposition of cruising? And does this make you explore other destinations because the cost of Hawaii has gotten so high? Let me know in the comments and let's talk ship.